You've reached the end of the first semester here at Elkhorn Valley High School in the Brave Adventure class. Along the way, you've met some teachers, you've participated in some great activities, learned a little about yourself and about others. Today, you're going to go through an activity where you're going to show what you've learned. This is it. This is real. Life is not a dress rehearsal. The time is now. Today, you're going to show what you've learned over the course of the semester in the Brave Adventure class. You're going to show that you have picked up on the ideas that we've given out, and you're going to show that you are ready to take on the world. This is it. So the story goes that a college professor at a university had 100 students in his class. First day of class, told the students, I'm going to make you a deal. I know some of you are really just here just to get a grade, so here's what's going to happen. If you come to class every day, if you take the tests, I'm going to guarantee that you get a C in this class. All you have to do is show up. Now, go ahead and sit in the back, because I don't want to have to mess with you about things. But if you show up, take the tests, you'll get a C. But for those of you who really want to learn, those of you who really, really want to know this, you come sit down front, and I'll teach you. You're the kids that I'm going to teach. And you can have an opportunity to not just get an A, but to really excel at the subject. You know what happened? 80% of the students chose the simple route, to show up and get their C. Only 20 kids, only 20 students chose to sit down front and really learn, to really learn. Is that the way that you want to be? You know, life is so complicated. In order for you to get ahead, you're going to need that edge. To get that edge, you have to challenge yourself. Every moment of your life, you're faced with a choice. Do I muddle through? Do I just put in my time? Do I just show up? Or do I say to myself, this is it. This is the moment. This is my time. I'm going to tell you a story about 3 different people who each had a this is it moment in their life. A time for them to choose how they were going to live their lives. First is a baseball player. His name is Josh Hamilton. He's played for the Texas Rangers. He played for the Cincinnati Reds, Anaheim Angels. He's probably best known for the 2008 All-Star Game held in Yankee Stadium, where he hit 28 home runs. Now again, 28 home runs. He hit 17 in a row. It was phenomenal. The Yankee fans were screaming his name. But if you were to ask him, what's his this is it moment? He wouldn't say that the baseball had anything to do with it. He graduated from high school in 1996, and his contract got purchased by the Cincinnati Reds. They had him in Florida in rookie league ball, and he got hurt. Well, what happens to a young man who's signed for a lot of money, sitting around with nothing to do? He began to drink, and drinking led to drugs. And by the end of 1998, he was out of baseball, and he was addicted to methamphetamines. He lost a lot of his body weight. He wasn't able to keep a steady job. He was resigned to living in other people's houses and sleeping on their couches. If you ask Josh Hamilton what his this is it moment, it happened in the fall of 1998 when he walked to his grandmother's house and knocked on the door and said, I have no place else to go. Can you help me? This is it. That was the day that he chose, this is my moment. This is what I have to do in order to succeed. She helped him get clean and sober. His contract got picked up by the Cincinnati Reds, and from there, he's had a very healthy, happy career as a professional baseball player. For Josh Hamilton, that's his This Is It story. Second person we're going to tell you today about, his name is Patrick Henry Hughes. Now, he's got a very interesting son. His son's name is John Henry Hughes. And John Henry was born with a birth defect, that kind of a brittle bone disease. It made it so that he was not able to put a lot of pressure on his weight. He was never able to walk. He was actually born blind. He doesn't have eyes. But he was given this incredible gift of music. He plays piano. He played trumpet through high school. In fact, he played so well that he wanted to play in the orchestra at the University of Louisville, where they lived. So, John Henry talked to the band director, and they said they auditioned, and he liked what he heard. But the band director had other ideas. The band director thought, you know, why don't you join the marching band? A kid in a wheelchair who can't see, how is he going to be in the marching band? Well, that's where the father comes in. This is really the dad's story. Patrick Henry Hughes was an executive with Federal Express. He worked in the accounting department. After talking to the band director and finding out that his son really wanted to go through and be part of the marching band experience, the dad had a choice to make. Do I help my son fulfill his dreams, or do I let them just wither away? For Dad, it was, this is it. The father quit his job in the accounting department and got a job working overnight loading the airplanes. So he'd get home from work about 5 o'clock in the morning, get a couple of hours of sleep, and then he would go with his son to college and push him in a wheelchair around to his classes. In the afternoon, they would take part in the marching band rehearsals, and the dad would have to learn the show. So the dad would be marching, pushing a wheelchair, so his son could play. The dad sacrificed his job to help his son fulfill his dream. This is it. The third story I'm going to tell you about a This Is It story is mine. Everyone you talk to has got a This Is It story, and mine deals with my job. I was working here at El Cajon Valley High School in 2003. I was getting very close to finishing up my master's degree, which would allow me to continue to teach. It was part of my renewing my teaching certification. At the same time that I was working on this, my wife was expecting our first child, and she was getting very, very ready to deliver him. So we were in the month of September. We're in the middle of school, band season, tremendously busy. I was taking 2 online classes, a lot of writing. But I'd really researched things out. I'd looked at it, and I knew that if I did the class that had the biggest project first and got it done a week before it was due, I could spend the last week on the other class, write the paper for it, get it turned in, and I'd be finished. Worked great. So I spent most of my time on that first class, on the really big research project, and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote. I got it turned in on a Friday afternoon, 1 week before it was due. Fantastic. Sunday night, I got an email from the professor from the other class that said, I didn't get your paper. I thought, what paper? So I went back and I reread the syllabus, and I found out that a major paper had been due the day before. A paper that was a huge part of my grade, a paper that was a huge part of my being able to pass this last class. What do I do? Well, for me, it became my This Is It moment. I put on a pot of coffee, and I typed from 10 o'clock at night until 6 o'clock in the morning. I researched it and wrote a paper overnight. Sent it in at 6 a.m. and was right at work at 7:30. Now, I can't tell you that I got an A in that class. I actually got a B+. But for me, that was my This Is It moment. I could have said, oh, it's too much. I just can't. Okay, I'll retake the class next month. I'll take it over again. But instead, it became my This Is It. This became the day that I said, no, this has to be done. And I'm going to do what it takes to finish. I'm going to do what it takes to get the job done. Our first task today is to come up with some goals. What are we talking about when we talk about a goal? A goal is something that you want. Goals can be academic. I want to pass my English class. I want to get an A on my math test. A goal can be athletic. I want to make the JV baseball team this year. I want to make the swim team. Goals at school can be social. I want to go to the winter formal. I want to go to homecoming. I want to be elected to the homecoming court. Having a goal means deciding that there's something that you want and figuring out how to get it. That part of it we call goal setting. Having a goal is important, but what we really want to do is figure out how we're going to get that goal. Let's take an example. My son is a 7th grader, and right now he wants to get a new gaming system. It's going to cost about $300. He doesn't have $300. It's a lot of money. So how can we help him get to that number? Well, how about this? He's got a birthday coming up, and Grandma usually sends him about $50. After that, of course, it's Christmas, and Grandpa, on my side, usually sends him another $50. So now, he's only got to come up with another $200. Now, it just so happens that at my house, we pay for chores. And right now, he makes about $10 a week on chores. So, at this rate, that means in 20 weeks, if he saves that $100 and earns another $10 a week until then, he'll have saved up enough for his new gaming system. What's even better is, as we go along, sometimes things will come up where he can make a little bit of extra money, like if he comes and helps with the yard work, or if he takes out the trash. And that happens, this number goes down faster if he earns some extra money. Now, maybe he does it in 19 weeks, or maybe he does it in 18 weeks. But the whole thing about goal setting is not just figuring out what you want, but coming up with a plan on how to get there. Right now, $300 is too far away. You can't reach it. It's so far away from it. But the idea of being able to save $10 a week, or maybe $15 a week, that's going to make it so that it's going to be easier for him to meet the goal and be able to get there. Today, we're going to set some goals with you, and we're going to come up with a plan for how you're going to meet those goals. Right now, we're going to come up with 2 goals for you. Goal number 1 is a short-term goal. Something that you can make quickly, something that you're going to be able to really see very quickly whether or not you're going to get to it. Like doing well on your final for your 2nd period class and your 3rd period class. And then you're also going to set up a long-term goal. Now, long-term goals take a little bit longer to get to. So we normally have to come up with a couple extra steps to track our progress to get there. A long-term goal might be to graduate from high school. A long-term goal might be scholarship to college. Short-term goals will be passing your classes or acing a final. Today, you need to come up with 2 goals. One is a short-term goal, something that can be accomplished in the next couple weeks to the next semester. And then you need a long-term goal, something that you're going to do and be able to track its progress. With both goals, however, here's the key. It needs to be real. And it needs to be specific. The more specific you can make your goal, the more real it becomes. It's not enough to just say, I want to get an A in my math class next semester. That makes it too hard. If you say, I'm going to get an 85% or higher in my math class, it becomes more real to you. You're going to have an easier time meeting that goal than to just say, well, I'm just going to pass. The more specific you can be with your goal, the better it's going to be for you. So here's your goal. Here's what's going to happen right now. In your class, you're going to take a piece of paper and you're going to write out 2 goals. One is short-term, something that can happen in the next couple weeks or the next semester. And then you're going to come up with a long-term goal, something for over your course of your high school career. Both need to be real. Both need to be as specific as you can make them. The more specific, the more easier it's going to be for you to track the progress as you work towards meeting those goals. Today's activity has nothing to do with size or strength. To be successful today, you need one thing: commitment. Let's take a look at that word, commitment. At its simplest, commitment means that you're going to do what you said that you're going to do. There's a lot more layers to it than that. Commitment means doing everything in your power to see it through, not letting anything get in your way. And if you run into obstacles, if you come into barriers, if something doesn't quite happen the way that you think it should, it slows down the process. You keep trying. You keep trying. You don't quit. Commitment means going through all the way. Let's take a look at a championship athlete, an Olympic diver. Now I could go to the library and I could pick up a couple of books on how to be an Olympic diver, but that doesn't make me a diver. I could go to the swimming pool. I could even climb up onto the high platform dive, but that does not make me a diver. The thing that makes me a diver is when I jump, when I commit to going off. Commitment means I am not going to turn back. Commitment means I'm going to do what needs to be done to be successful. Today, you're going to go through an exercise in commitment. Our students who've been part of the Brave Adventure program for over 20 years have all gone through this activity. And every single student has been successful. Every student shows commitment. Committing means not stopping. Commitment means I'm going to do everything in my power, everything, to get through to my goal. My goal is to get to college. I'm not going to let anything get in the way of that. Money, grades, location. Any hardship that I come across is just that. It's just a little bump in the road. If I'm truly committed to getting my goal, I'm going to break through whatever barrier happens to be in the way. Anything preventing me from getting to my goal, I'm going to break through it. This is commitment. Commitment means doing whatever it takes to get through any barrier to get to your goal. Coach Hormuz, when did you take the Brave Adventure class?
Yes, it was in July 16th, 2010. It says it right here.
Can you tell us a little bit about your Brave Adventure experience? What kind of activities and things did you do? What did you get out of the class?
Yes, definitely. I did take Brave Adventure 7 years ago when I was a freshman. It was during the summer. At first, when I started Brave Adventure, I was like, this is meaningless. I don't want to do this. I want to be at home. But I actually gained a lot of good experience from it, especially this, which I have kept 7 years from now. And this is a symbol to my success and my journey. And I feel like it has created a lot of meaning to my life.
As with our students now, we didn't tell you ahead of time what this was going to be like. What did you feel once you found out that you were going to be breaking a board?
Yes, at first I did have a goal in mind, and I knew that my first goal that I was going to put on there was to become valedictorian. But I didn't know that that vision was as strong as I imagined until I wrote it on the board and made it public. And I kept this with me for the four entire years, in my high school career, and this became a symbol for me. And I loved this part of Brave Adventure because this pushed me. It was my first step to making my goal come true.
Now that you have graduated from high school and were valedictorian at our school, how important is goal setting to you in your current life?
I believe goal setting is the most important thing to being successful and making your goals come true. I had a goal when I first started college to graduate in 3 years, and as I go into this new year, I'm actually graduating this June in 3 years. And I feel like setting goals just keeps you on track, and keeps you motivated and keeps you on task and keeps you stronger to achieving that goal. So make sure you set goals and you achieve them.
Breaking a board can be really scary. The thought of going through it, all kinds of crazy things are going to go through your head. But there's a safe way to do it, and we're going to show you how to do that right now. First, we're going to talk about how do you set up your board so that it can be successfully broken. Here's a board that we didn't use last year. So let's talk a little bit about what we're looking for. First, all the boards are made out of pine. They're real wood, but we're going to show you a couple ways to help you get through them. First thing that we want to do is find the grain of the board. Now, what is the grain? The grain is the vertical part. So as you're looking at, the grain is where the rings lie. So if you look at this board here, you're going to see that it's got grains in this direction. Okay? As you set your board up, you want to have it so that the grains are vertical. Trying to break your board with the grains are horizontal, sideways, is very difficult. So we want to make sure that as you set your board up, you set it up so that the grain is up and down. Okay. So take a look at this board. Is it correct this way, or is it correct this way? Right, we want the grain to be vertical, so that's the first part that we're going to look at. Second thing that we need to notice is on the edge of the board. Now you will see that as most boards go, we've got a smooth edge, we've got another smooth edge, and then the other side is where it was cut. So this part is the part that's been, the word we use is milled. As you look at the board, you're going to see where the rings are going. To start the process today, you want to look at the board so that the milling is pointed downwards. You want the board to be frowning at you. On this board, you can see very lightly here where the rings come around to here. This board's a little bit easier. Take a look at the edges of it there. See how the rings are moving down right through here? So right now, this board is smiling at us. That's not the side that we want to talk about. So to make it work, we want to turn that board over so that the board is frowning at us. We want it to be the frowny side. If you have any questions, ask your teacher and they'll help you figure out which side of the board that we want to work from. Now that you've got your board figured out which side has the frown and which side has the smile, we're going to look at the side of the board that's got the frown on it. So here's what we're going to do. Looking at it so that the grain is vertical and that the frowny side is pointed down, you're going to write your name. You're going to write today's date. This is last year's board, so we'll fill that in for you in just a little bit. And then you're going to write the word commitment, because our whole goal today is for you to commit to the idea of breaking through the board. Your name, today's date, and the word commitment. Now that you've got your board set up with your name and the date and the word commitment, the next thing we're going to do is talk about what is going to prevent us from getting through the board. Because remember, this is all about a goal. We set a goal earlier today. You came up with a goal, both a short-term and a long-term goal. So now this board represents the barrier to your being able to get that goal. So right now I want you to turn your board over so that now as you're looking at it, the board is smiling at you. You're looking at the edge and the board is smiling. On this side of the board, you're going to write a barrier to your being successful to meeting your goal. Let's say that your goal is to get a 90% in your math class, an A-. What would be a barrier to your being able to get that grade? Not doing your homework? Not studying for tests? Not spending enough time to study? All of those things get in the way of your being successful, of getting to your goal. So right now I need you to think about the goal that you've written. What is a barrier to your being able to get to that goal? And then you're going to take and write that barrier on the smiling side of the board. The board is smiling, and you're going to write the barrier to your goal on that side. So I'm going to take this board, and I'm going to show you again the exact steps that we just went through. First, I'm going to figure out which direction the grain is going, and have the grain go vertically, up and down. So here the grain is going sideways, here the grain is going vertically. Next, I'm going to look and find at the edge and find the smiley side and the frowny side of my board. This is the frown. So on the frowny side, I'm going to write my name, today's date, and the word commitment. All of those appear on the frowny side of the board. Next, I'm going to turn the board over. I'm now looking at the frown side, or the smiling side. So now it's happy I'm going to break it. So on this side, I'm going to write the barrier to my goal. If my goal is to save money for a new car, so that's my goal. I want to save some money for a new car. So what would be a barrier to my goal? Going out to eat. So eating out at restaurants. If I'm always going out to eat at a restaurant, I'm not saving money. So, to help me save money, this is the barrier to my goal of being able to buy a new car. So right now, think about what your goal is. Think about a barrier to your goal, and then you're going to write that barrier on this board. Well, we've talked about goal setting. We've got an idea in mind. We've talked about commitment. Now we've set up our board. Now it's time to break the board. It's time to commit to the idea of breaking through your barriers to get to the goals that you want to achieve. Here's how we start. First, you have to decide whether you're going to break the board with your right hand or your left hand. Either one works out fine. You just have, and if you need to use the other hand, just switch around as we go through things. First, we're going to start with our hand. We want to make sure that when you break the board, you keep your hand open. Some kids like to curl their fingers underneath. That's not a good technique. You want to make sure that you keep your hand out. Keep your fingers splayed out like this. Because when you break the board, you're actually going to hit it right down here with the heel of your hand. If your fingers are curved, you might accidentally hit your knuckles on the things. And again, that's not, it can really be some problems. The other thing you don't want to do, we're not going to punch through the board, right? That's how they do it in the movies. To break your board, you need to have your hand open flat, and you're going to hit it with this part right down here. Okay? When you've got your hand open, decide which hand you're going to use to break the board, and now you're going to take your hand and you're going to hold it out flat, palm up. When I say number one, you're going to turn your hand over and push it down towards the floor. 1. Reset. 2. 3. Good. Let's do it one more time. Now, if you can use your other hand as the opposite effect. So my left hand is pointed down, my right palm is pointed up. 1. 2. 3. This time, as I count, when you hear the number, as my hand goes down, I'm going to blow air out. The air is really helpful to help you expend your energy and to focus that strength. 1. 2. 3. Practice that for a little bit. Now that we have our basic hand positions done, let's work about our stance. Let's work about how we're going to stand for this. So first of all, you're going to want to have your weight evenly distributed between your 2 feet. So have your feet about shoulder width apart. Okay? Next, you're going to want to stand to the side of the station for the hand that you're using to break. So if I'm going to break with my right hand, I'm going to stand with my left foot next to the cinder blocks, next to the breaking station. If I'm going to break it with my left hand, I'm going to stand on the side over to here. Okay? So again, you want to stand so that your foot opposite of the hand that you're going to use to break the board is next to the bricks. I'm now going to do the same technique that I did before with my hands and my breathing. But this time, as I do that, I'm going to bend my knees. So as my hand moves down, my knees bend at the same time. 1. 2. 3. Try that. We're going to speed up the process a little bit now. We want to have more momentum. We want to have more force to help us break through the board. So now I'm going to do everything the same way I just did it. But when I get to the number 3, I'm going to drop to the knee on the same side that I'm going to use to break the board. So it's going to now look like this. 1, 2, 3. You're going to notice I brought my knee all the way down to the floor. My hand is also all the way down to the floor. I didn't bend forward at the waist. I didn't do 1, 2, 3, I'm not bent over at the waist. My body is still fairly straight. All I've done now is I've dropped to one knee. As my hand comes down, I want my arm to be as straight as I can make it. I don't want it to be bent at the elbow. Okay? So I don't want to bend at the waist, and I don't want my arm to bend. I want my arm to be straight also. That's going to generate more force as we go down through the board. So once again, we're going to practice it. I'm over here away from the bricks. I'm pretending that my foot is next to the bricks. My braking hand is palm up. As I say the number, I'm going to breathe out. 1, 2, 3. Straight down. If you're going to do it with your left hand is up, and break it. 1, 2, 3. All the way down to the floor. Now that we've practiced a little bit, it's time. It's time to break through the board. You're going to come up to the teacher, who's going to be at the bricks. You're going to have them their board. The peer mentors will also be up there to help you out. You've got a lot of support, a lot of people around you to help out. So they're going to first look to make sure that you're facing the grain is the correct way. Because you're going to want the grain to be set up so that when you break through the board, the grain is with the two sides of the brick. Here, it's not going to work. So make sure that the grain is straight. Okay. Next, I'm going to look to make sure that my board is smiling. Oh, look here. The board is frowning. The board's going to be unhappy if I try to break it on a frown. So I'm going to turn the board over. And now I'm going to look for the smile. This should also be the same side that you wrote the barrier to your goal on. So if you did this part right, if you put the barrier on the correct side, the barrier will be facing you as you break your board. So my board's now in place. Next, I'm going to take my goals, which I wrote earlier. My goal is to raise some money and save enough money that I can buy a new car. That's my goal. So I'm going to take it. This is what I want to get to. This is the thing that I'm not going to stop until I get it. I'm going to commit to the idea of doing what it takes to get to my goal of buying a new car. So I'm going to take my goal and I'm going to place it on the floor underneath the bricks. So now I want to get through my barrier all the way down to the floor to get my goal. This is a little metaphor. This is just an image of anything that's going to prevent you from doing what it takes to get to your goals. It's just in the way right now. In order to get to my goals, I have to go through my barriers all the way down to get to my goal. I'm going to make sure that as I go to break the board, I don't bend at the waist and slap at the board. That's not going to get through it. It's not going to be enough to break through the barrier. I've actually got to use the same technique, the force of dropping down to my knee and down. Here's where some kids have a problem. They're going to look at this and they're going to think, I can't get through that board. And you know what? They're usually right. I have to believe that I can break through this to get down to the bottom. How badly do you want that goal? How much do you want it? Do you want it enough that you're going to break through the barriers, that you're going to do the things that you promised to do to get to that goal? When you're ready, you're going to step back from the bricks, and your peer mentors and your coach are going to walk you through the steps a couple of times. So make sure that you've got a little bit of room, and then we're going to walk you through the steps. 1, 2, 3. All the way down to the floor, arm out straight, fingers out so that I'm hitting with the heel of my hand. 1, 2, 3. It's time. I know that I can break through that board. I know that if I'm going to get to my goal, I have to get through this. There's no other choice. If I'm going to get to my goal, I have to go through that board. This is it. 1, 2, 3. Breaking through your barriers is a matter of commitment. Do you want it bad enough? Do you want to get to your goals so much that you won't let anything get in the way of it? Ladies and gentlemen, this is it. Now, we have 4 rules that you have to follow before you're allowed to break a board. Rule number 1, when you get out to the promenade area, you must stay with your group. Stay with your team. Because you want people there to support you. You want people there who know you. You want people there who are going to be rooting and cheering you on. Stay with your group. Even if you have a friend in another class and you want to go over and see, stay with your group. Because some kids need a lot more, need that encouragement. Number 2, 1 board, 1 break. You don't get a second board. And once you break your board, you're not going to be able to go up and do a second break on the same board. That becomes very dangerous with the splinters and things. Okay? 1 board, 1 break. Number 2, stay with your group. Number 3, support others. For a lot of us, it's really, really scary the first time that you're going to come up to break a board. And it becomes all the more scary if somebody behind you said, "Oh, you're going to hurt yourself. Oh, you're terrible. It's not going to happen. You're going to get hurt. Miss. It's terrible. We want everyone to feel supported by their classmates. So when it's your turn to come up, we want you to commit and break through the barrier. When it's someone else's turn, we want you to be there, watching the group, and being supportive, cheering them on. For many of you, you're going to get through it the first time. Some of you, you may not break through the board the first time. But obstacles sometimes happen. Sometimes some barriers are harder to get through than others. If you commit to the idea that you're going to be able to get through it, if you commit to the idea of breaking through the board to get to your barrier, if you commit, you will be successful today. 1 board, 1 break. Stay with your team and support the people around you. When we finish, a lot of you are going to do what Coach Hormuz did, and that's take your board home with you and have it as a remembrance on those hard times when you have to study for a test over the weekend, or you don't understand why you need to do your first draft again. Everybody's going out on Friday night, but you want to take another look at that vocabulary list in order to pass the test on Monday. Take these boards home and put them in your study area, because they're going to remind you that you can do anything when you put your mind to it. You can do anything when you put your mind to it. Ladies and gentlemen, good luck, and we'll see you out on the promenade.